All right, everybody, welcome to our discussion on the topic Healing Through Movement, the Power of Yoga for Breast Cancer Survivors. I'm Megan Claire Chase, and I am Share's Breast Cancer Program Director and host of our BC Life podcast. Plus, I'm also a breast cancer survivor. Now, before our conversation begins, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Share for any newbies watching this. We're a national nonprofit that supports, educates, and empowers anyone diagnosed with breast or gynecologic cancers and provides outreach to the general public about signs and symptoms because no one should have to face breast, ovarian, uterine, cervical, or metastatic breast cancer alone. For more information about upcoming webinars, support groups, podcasts, and our helplines, please visit our website at sharecancersupport.org. Now, I'd like to hand it over to my special guest, Dawn Freeman, to get this conversation started. Dawn, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my voice and things that may be helpful for other breast cancer survivors. Again, my name is Dawn Freeman. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I am a two-time breast cancer survivor. I also went through deep flap surgery. I am a health coach. I practice yoga. I'm a certified yoga instructor, Reiki. I utilize EFT and mindful self compassion. These are tools that have really helped me on a day to day basis. From when I did have cancer in 2018 and 2019, and just helped me along the way. Um, the funny thing is that in 2008 is when I was introduced to yoga in 2008, and that's when I did the yoga teacher training. And then who would have knew that 10 years later that I would end up with breast cancer and really needed yoga for myself.
Well, talk to us a bit, starting from that like 2008, like what made you interested in yoga, especially like it's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm interested in yoga, but then to actually go through like a program and become certified. How did that happen?
Well, I was in the process of losing my job at a big corporation, and one of my managers gave me a gift certificate to the YMCA. And I've always had an interest in working out. And, you can do your cardio, ride the bike, and lift weights. And I can't swim. And so I was looking at the register, the roster of things that they had, and saw this yoga class. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. Fell in love. Lost my job a couple of months later and thought, What are you going to do with yourself?" And so I enrolled into yoga teacher training. Went back, told the lady that taught the yoga class, I thanked her for introducing me, explained what was happening, and ended up in a 6-month program and fell in love with yoga. The movement, the mobility, and how it just with flexibility and just feeling great and energized in another way that didn't have to beat your body up as far as running or hitting the pavement, or it just was so peaceful and calming on your mind and on your whole body. And after a yoga class or after a yoga session, you just feel so like you've just been rejuvenated. And so
Mm.
that's what happened. And I stuck with it, stuck with it. Um, and that's how I was introduced to yoga.
You know, I have always thought like I don't know if I'd have the patience for yoga. Um, and I think to myself, like back in the day, I was very flexible because grew up studying ballet. So I was like, all right, but the thought of like it's quiet and with the movements are slower. And I was like, I am so anxious and just rah, all over the place. How kind of talk to us about like what is it like to go through yoga, or when did you realize just how like beneficial it would be once you got your first cancer diagnosis? And what do you say to those that of what I like just said is like I can't do that. I don't have the flexibility or the patience to do a yoga class.
Well, I already knew of the calming effects. So fast forward to breast cancer, I was going to Orange Theory 5 days a week where I was working out, and afterwards, I would come home and do yoga. But I had this fear of, oh no, like what's going to happen to my body? I'm going to lose everything that I've done over these 5 or 6 years of going to Orange Theory, plus plus going to yoga. Well, you lose range of motion
Hmm.
after breast cancer, so I had zero range of motion in my arm, couldn't, I still have range of motion problems in my right arm. But, I was laying in bed one day and I was like, you can't give up on yourself like that. There's a such thing as chair yoga. Guess what? We're gonna make bed yoga. So my family, they knew me. I tried to get down on the floor one day and I couldn't. I mean, I could, but I couldn't get up, and I didn't like that feeling. And so I said, you know what? We're gonna make this happen. What are some of your favorite poses? And so I just started doing like happy baby, not the way I can do happy baby today, but I just started easing into happy baby, doing small things like, just stretching my arms to the left. Um, I would do couldn't do downward facing dog, but you could do poses where you're actually laying not completely on your stomach,
Hmm.
because you you didn't want to be flat, but I would just do things to mimic poses and not get all the way into the poses so that I was getting stretches in my back and stretching my neck. I would sit on the side of the bed and do leg poses. I didn't it didn't I had to gradually work into all of this. It wasn't day one, okay, you're doing this complete bed yoga thing, but every day I did it because I didn't want to lose the mobility. I didn't want to lose my flexibility. And I knew that it was calming for me. The great thing about yoga is that use your breath, you know, um, you do a pose, the breath is so important to your body, so I made sure that I incorporated breath work into every simple movement that I was doing because I knew of the healing and the calming aspects that it had on my body. And so yeah, I did bed yoga. I don't know how long until I was able to actually get down on the floor and do. No, I wasn't, once I did get to the floor, I wasn't doing complete poses, but it was enough for me to get my body going because, eventually I'm going to physical therapy. So, I kind of had a head start, but the breath work and the movements like were just, yeah, but just life changing for my healing process.
What are like some of the things that you've learned about yoga that maybe, someone who is either a beginner or has never really thought about yoga in terms of like breast cancer and healing and stretching and getting like that mobility and some flexibility back? What are some things that we should know about like the power of yoga, and then kind of getting more into how it's really helped you physically?
For me, I had shame, guilt, disappointment, um, worry. And yoga helped me to learn that it is okay to be gentle with yourself. Yoga teaches you, it can teach you discipline, but the biggest thing that I received from it was self care and knowing that it was okay to be kind, patient, and gentle. When you're doing yoga, I mean, yeah, you can go to a class that is high powered, high energy, but that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for more restorative yoga. Um, it taught me to be kind to myself because I was just like push, push, push. You've got this cancer diagnosis, and your job is, they want you got to get yourself together and get back. No, that should not be your focus. Your focus should be on what you need. And what I needed was kindness, patience, gentleness, um, the healing aspects from the breath work. And that is what yoga taught me. Did I learn that in yoga teacher training? Yes, I did learn that in yoga school. However, that's not where you are when you know that life is moving the way life is supposed to be moving. You're just, I'm gonna get my yoga in, yeah, it's good. No, my yoga practice evolved.
Hmm.
Point of girl, people be like, what are you doing? And I, via text, sitting on my yoga mat. I I lay on my yoga mat. I have slept on my yoga mat. Why? Because to lay on your yoga mat flat on your back and to stretch out is one of the best feelings that I experience every day. I do yoga 7 days a week now. I never, right, right. Why? Because I still have problems from the breast cancer. I was in a car accident, so I have back issues. Yoga is my saving grace. It is, that is my thing. So what I learned was that yoga can, it's just a game changer. It really has changed my life. I never thought I'd be practicing yoga 7 days a week. You know, my aunt asked me, she was like, how much does it cost for a yoga mat? And I was like, well, my yoga mat, I spent like $120. And she was like, whoa, like, why would you spend that much money? Because that's what's important for me. My body and my comfort and me feeling good and great is important for me. I just threw away my first yoga mat 2 days ago because it finally wore out. I have a backup yoga mat, but I'm ready for my third yoga mat. Jade yoga mats last forever. But yeah, that's what yoga has taught me, that it's a message to me saying, what do you need? And when I get to my yoga mat, I can receive what I need because people are like, well, you don't go to yoga classes? And no, why would I? Because I know that I need to stretch my sciatica today. I know that I need to stretch my shoulders today. I know that, you know, a yoga class, a personalized yoga class is what I give to myself, and that is a gift that I'm grateful to have in my life.
So now I'm totally curious about yoga mats because I thought all like I'm always seeing people carrying like the yoga containers or whatever with the mat. I see yoga mats at Marshalls and like but that's not the kind of yoga mat you're talking about.
They're not all created equal. They really aren't. When I went to see my aunt a few months ago, I mean, not a few months ago, a few years ago, I ordered a yoga mat off of Amazon and had it delivered to her house because I'm like, I'm not about to carry my yoga mat, in my bag, with all that yoga mat. I was slipping and slide. Like I looked at it and I was slipping and sliding. And I meant to ask her, throw that thing away because yeah, all yoga mats are not created equal.
Like, what is it? Because that's something I'd honestly never thought about. like the importance of that, if you are able to get on the ground or even can like modify doing like part chair, part mat, yoga. Like what is the importance of the yoga mat?
This you want good cushion underneath your knees. My knees are sensitive. You don't want some little piece of paper. Some of those mats are like pieces of paper. you know Sustainability. That's why I get my yoga mat from where I get it from. Another thing that you utilize, and I use these every day, are yoga blocks. This is important as well for your yoga workout. I know it's dirty and it's beat up, but I've had these little things since 2008, since I started. Yoga blocks support you. They can help you with poses. If you can't get down far enough, they lift you, they support you, they can go under your knees. So that is also important with yoga. And one other thing that I should have brought down here, I wasn't thinking, is yoga blankets. Yeah,
There
if
are
you
yoga blankets?
yeah, there's yoga blankets as well, for support, if you're doing restorative yoga. And I have something called a bolster. This beautiful lady, when I was in yoga teacher training, she made them for us. They're about that wide, and they're like a pillow cushion, and they're great for like restorative yoga, or if you can't get down far enough, it's support. So those are, and my yoga strap. So I use a yoga strap, I use my yoga blocks, my yoga blanket, and my yoga mat. Those are the things that I utilize on a day-to-day basis for.
I mean, literally, like this this conversation's blowing my mind because I did not realize how much I did not know about yoga. Like I'm just thinking, yeah, it's just stretching, moving this, but there's like there's an art to it, but more importantly, more supported tools
Yeah.
uh than I thought. I didn't realize that.
The blocks and the bolster can be utilized for restorative yoga, for yin yoga. Those are going to be poses that you're going to hold for longer times. They're gentle, they're more gentle because you can lay out on this bolster. You can have the yoga blanket behind your head to support you. I remember my friend, when I first started teacher training, I couldn't wait to like get people over here. And she was experiencing menstrual cramps. She had really bad menstrual cycles. And I put her in a restorative yoga pose, and she slept like a baby for 2 hours. When I woke her up, she was looking like, "Well, where am I?" I had blankets wrapped around her ankles to hold so that her legs could just rest comfortably. She was on two of the blocks, and then the bolster was kind of like a little bed. And yeah, you wouldn't believe the different things that can happen. There's one pose, and I was watching a cooking. I love to cook. I was watching this cooking show, and they had to stay up 24 hours to cook. And so they gave them like an hour or something to go in the back. And I thought, oh man, if they only knew about putting their legs up the wall. If you lay straight on your back and put your legs up the wall for at least 10 minutes, your blood is flowing downwards. That's better than taking an hour nap. And so I was like, wow, if only they knew. And when they went on the camera, they were laying with their legs up the wall. And I was like, hallelujah. Look at, like, who told them this? Like, I was more impressed by them knowing this than their cooking skills. But yes, there's so much that you can get from yoga. But I will say this. Yes, I went to yoga teacher training. You definitely have to consult your doctor, to make sure it is okay with you. But yoga, there's so many different things that you can do with yoga. You would have no idea. So yeah.
So, when we think about all the different treatments and surgeries and how everyone can heal differently, some people are quick healers, some are super slow, or side effects that later pop up. It could be weeks, months, years later. And all of a sudden you're like, I just want to feel loose, like sometimes you just feel so tight. Like right now, I'm feeling pretty tight. And like often don't just think, maybe I should uh look up a yoga video, or like if you're a beginner or not really sure like what to do or where to go, like how does one begin to start the process of yoga, and what's that difference between like restorative yoga? What are the other types of yogas?
Well, there are different ways. You're always welcome to consult someone like myself that is a yoga teacher. YouTube is amazing. You can look for upper body. um you can look for shoulder workouts, you can look for wrist workouts, you can look for lower body, you can look for restorative is going to be, you're not doing downward facing dog and you're not moving around. You are more than likely using that bolster that I explained to you, and
Mm-hmm.
you are laying in poses. You can do the pose that I was telling you about my friend. I did a restorative that was called a Supta Baddha Konasana. Basically, Supta meaning you're laying, you're laying.
What? Say that again.
Supta Baddha Konasana. So you're laying down, supta. You are using blocks under your waist to do a bridge pose, but your blanket is there to support your head. This, I'm talking restorative. You are doing a chest opener where you're putting one block under your head and under your chest, and that is going to open your chest and have you feeling just a great stretch through there. That is what restorative is. Yin is very similar, but you could be in a pose that is not as gentle, but you're holding it longer. um and then there's a class where there's a flow. A flow is where you're doing um triangle pose, or you're doing um warrior two, warrior three, you're doing downward facing dog, you're doing cobra pose where you're down on your stomach. You're moving, you're flowing to the music, utilizing your breath, getting into a pose, moving into another pose. That is a flow. And then you have slow flows where you're doing what I just mentioned. You're in triangle pose, you're in all these different poses, but it's a slower. You're going to hold those poses. You might hold that pose for, 2 minutes. Um, there are yoga different types. I studied hatha, but there are other yoga classes that I didn't study. Like I had considered studying hot yoga and core power, um, but I don't really like hot yoga. That is one thing to be, to sweat just from being in a yoga pose, but now you're in 100-degree class. It's great for detox, and that's good for some people. You know,
Mhm.
so there are so many different types. Iyengar. There's so many different types of yoga, but I studied hatha. Another thing, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, is there's an exercise company that has a bicycle involved. I love their yoga teachers. I've learned so much from their yoga teachers in the last 2 years that, it's like ongoing education. There's a gentleman that, if you want a real hardcore workout, and it you take one of his classes, one of his yoga classes, and it's just like, I don't know if I really want to sweat that hard today. If you want to be in superstar, rock star, these weird poses where you're like in the air, one leg, you take old girls classes from Australia, so yoga is amazing and it's not just one thing. So I'm a
Oh,
YouTube that company that has that bicycle involved. Because you can take classes with them. You can have a full membership for like $12 a month and take as many yoga classes as you want. Some live, some are not, live. Um, so yeah, yoga goes a long way and it's not just one thing. You can take classes with them or on YouTube that are just breath work classes, So there's so much to yoga, you know. And I'll tell you this, one of my favorite times, I do yoga Sundays I do yoga twice a day. I take a 8:30 class with somebody from that company live, and then I usually do yoga again at between 4 and 4:30. At 4:30 is when it's so calm and peaceful. I live by a creek and I have little bird feeders out back, and the birds are chirping, and I'm just in so much gratitude, just sitting there listening to the birds like singing and just sitting in gratitude and just enjoying the moment and knowing that it's something that is good. I could have had a stressful day, I could have had an amazing day, but it's just that is my time. I'm not available usually between 4 and 5 because I'm taking yoga, you know.
it's like the pause, the needed pause.
That's exactly what it is. It is.
Like how, because I also want to give a shout out to 3 Acres Yoga. So when we had our Afro Share Summit, that was both in person in New York City, but also a live stream. In June, we did have a movement break.
Mhm.
And I have to admit, it gave me energy. Like, I always think of yoga of, I need to do that something before bedtime. I never even think of it as like a pause to just like not only stretch, but actually get some natural energy in. Um, and so like I just continually get surprised by all the different benefits of yoga, especially when, so many of us have those mobility issues that may, be forever, who knows, or those of us who deal with chronic pain, and it could be different types of pains that you're dealing with, but how not only it seems like yoga can be restorative and the calming in that pause, but it can also help. It sounds like giving that energy and that natural type of boost, maybe, you know, to get through the next few hours of whatever it is you have to do. Like, what's a good like time frame to do something? Because when I'm thinking of a yoga class, I'm like, do you have to do this for like an hour? Like, what are we talking here?
Usually a 30-minute class is good. Um Sometimes you'll catch me doing yoga for 2 hours, because I know that, okay, I'm still feeling a little tight in my hips. I'm gonna sit here in cow face pose for 20 minutes, like y- yoga is to me, like in mindful self-compassion, they always say, pretend like you're talking to a friend that needs you and you're asking that friend, what is it that you need? That's what I need. But for somebody who's just starting out, you might do a 15 to 20-minute class and work yourself up to 30 minutes. But a typical class is going to be 30 minutes, in
Right.
my opinion.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But I really, again, you just also have such a calming voice. You really do. And I'm curious, as you have mentioned, nature and just that pause, right? Is yoga also a form of meditation, or like or are they separate? Can you kind of just delve into that for a few minutes?
They are separate, but they're not because yoga is a form of meditation. Yoga is a form of meditation. Music is a form of meditation. Um, Sitting in quiet and just quieting your thoughts and doing breath work is a form of meditation. Meditating where you're telling yourself what you need. I need I need peace. May my day be filled with ease. May my day be filled with love. That's a form of meditation. For me, I'm a cactus grower. So propagating cactus, propagating plants is a form of meditation. Singing is a form of meditation for me. Even dancing is a form of meditation. That was something else I would do. Once I started gaining energy, I would do yoga and then play music and dance, you know, throughout. Then I would get back on the floor and do, this is how I work the music that I loved. On Fridays, I would say I'm getting ready to have a yoga dance party. But yeah, meditation is what is what you make it, because we all have things that resonate with us. For me, it's music, it's singing, it's cooking, it's playing with plants. Also, meditation can be taking walks in nature. You know, I can sit out on my patio and see a lot. Because like I said, I live by a creek. I've got birds, I've got butterflies, I've got cicadas, I've got bunny rabbits, I've got a chipmunk, I've got a turtle, so that's meditation because it soothe you? Does it calm you? Does it bring peace to you? That's how you know if it's meditation.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, as we wrap up this awesome conversation, like I feel, you know, sometimes I get nervous trying something new, but something that you said in the beginning just really resonated, and that starting small, even if it's from the bed. And I totally forgot about the whole chair yoga option too. Um, so for those that don't know, I work for Share, but I work remotely. I live in Atlanta, and when I had finished my cancer treatments, we went to it's called Camp Hope, and it was in the mountains, in the Georgia mountains.
Mhm.
And I'm definitely more of a spa person. I was like, we're gonna be out in the wilderness, and then we actually had some yoga classes, and I was very freaked out. I'm like, I can't get down on the floor. And she was like, don't you worry. Here's a chair. We're gonna modify it for you. So every time I tried to put up a barrier, I was like, okay, all right. And then I had to admit, I felt better and calmer. So I like that you said, start small, meet yourself where you are, so to speak.
Exactly. When there's a will, there's a way, honey.
Yeah, right. You know, because I'd love for you to like ease this out of here all nice and calm. But what are some like takeaways that you would want someone who has, been diagnosed with breast cancer, maybe they're coming up on surgeries, or they're already in survivorship and healing from treatments and surgeries and whatever other side effects there are? What are some takeaways you want them to have from this conversation?
The biggest thing that I learned was take breaks, rest your body and your mind. Um, if you are overwhelmed, sit down. Don't think that you have to do it all. Sit down, take a break, rest your mind, your body. This is your time. This is your time for healing and for self-care. And you need to ask yourself and be honest with yourself, what is it that I need right now? what is it that I need? And whatever it is that you need, that you can give yourself in that moment, whether it's quiet time, alone time, give that to yourself, unapologetically. Um, be gentle with yourself. Like, you must be gentle, even though you have you. If you need help, reach out for help, ask for help. That was hard for me. I didn't, my aunt flew in from California to stay as long as I needed her, and they'd see me come sliding down the stairs, and they're like, "Where are you going?" "To the kitchen." And because I like to eat. And then, "Well, what do you think we're here for?" "No, let somebody cook for you. Let somebody bring you a meal." Like, just because you like good food and you don't want what somebody's cooking, it, take a break. Take a break. And the last thing I will say is, if you are feeling overwhelmed, understand that your breath can do miracles for yourself. Even today, if I get overwhelmed with something, I take a moment and I do breath work. It's simple. You can just take. That's so easy and calming and just relaxing. You are lowering your cortisol, you are calming yourself down, and sometimes I throw in little words, like, "May I be at peace. May I be at ease. May I be comfortable. May I feel safe. May I feel love." And also putting your hand on yourself and soothing yourself on your heart or on your arm, wherever it is that feels comfortable, and taking those deep breaths will make a change in how you feel in 5 minutes or less. So those are some of the things that I utilize daily and that helped me through, but your breath can really help as well.
Well, Dawn, I cannot thank you enough for this healing and calming conversation, but more importantly, reminding us to take that pause. We're worth it. We're worth making the time to heal and restore and continue that process, even if you get stronger. And when you get stronger, to continue to make time for the pause.
Mm.
Thank you.
Namaste.